Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
Pockets of warmth where the clouds have thinned across the region. Will we get any of these before the weekends? And what about rain for the weekend? We'll answer those questions next at 5.
A man who pled guilty in a Detroit hit and run was sentenced today, but he didn't get the amount of time that he expected. We'll tell you why.
All right, Coco, but we begin with breaking news. The evacuation that turned downtown Lapeer into a ghost town because of a gasoline spill has just been lifted. Good afternoon, everybody. That spill prompted a large chunk of the town to be evacuated all day long after a loud explosion early this morning.
Take a look at this detailed map showing the area which has been closed off all day as crews work to clean it up. Let's get right out to Rod Maloney. And Rod, the all clear coming just moments ago, correct?
Just sounded. Fire trucks are just leaving this area here. You can see the sawhorses behind me. They'll be taking down the police tape. There are fire trucks in the area. There's a pump truck over here as well. This blast was so loud and so big in some spots that it actually split manhole covers into pieces, and they landed on the pavement and created dents. It was a big thing at 4:30 this morning. They're thankful at this hour things are back to normal. Dozens of manhole covers needed to be placed back in their proper position this afternoon. That operation coming long after the sewer line fumes dissipated, roughly 10 hours after the blast that shattered the early morning quiet. Lapeer florist Tom Benton didn't hear it at his house, but a couple of his tenants above his shop told him.
I did get an early morning text from them saying that there were police and that they had were woken by the explosion, which was about a half a block from where they were sleeping.
The Lapeer Fire Department moved in along with state investigators. They immediately evacuated downtown, businesses and homes. City Manager Dale Kirbyson discovered gasoline fumes had spread far and wide.
So some have strong gas odors and others do not. And then they're right next to a building that has a strong gas odor. So we're trying to keep people out of the risk area as we can.
While firefighters looked for dangerous fume levels, pumping crews moved in to draw gasoline from the sewer lines, including a nearby Sunoco station, although the city is not saying where the leak originated. It also turns out the problem started yesterday. Tom Benton telling Local 4 he had to shutter his flower shop yesterday afternoon.
The toxic fumes really affected people. I mean, everyone at the store had a headache. I mean, it was really pretty bad. Now, Tom tells me that he called Consumers Power. They came out, monitored everything. They didn't see any natural gas. It had dissipated. So at that point, they left and didn't tell anybody. And so the city is saying, hey, Consumers Power did their job. Now today they had to do theirs. You can see behind me here this pump truck. They're trying to pump that gasoline out of the sewer system. And at this point, everybody's going to be allowed to come back, and they think everything's back to normal. Back to you.
Yeah, and Rod, I know you said they don't know the origin of that leak, but do they know where the gasoline or the fumes came from originally?
Well, you know, they just did an updated press conference here a few minutes ago, and they did tell us that they believe it's that gas station and that there's a lot of activity around there. They're installing pumps and they're pumping things and doing all kinds of work over there. The state's here. They had their emergency operations center up and running. A lot of the activity is going on at that station because it's the only gas station in the area that's been closed off. But they still need to do some investigation, and they're not saying definitively that it is that gas station causing this problem.
All right, Rod, we know you'll stay on it. Glad nobody was hurt in that. All right, Rod, thanks. Kim?
A dramatic day on Capitol Hill. Today, special counsel Robert Mueller spoke publicly for the first time since the Russia investigation began. In a prepared statement, Mueller tendered his resignation and carefully explained why the president couldn't be charged with a crime. Special counsel Robert Mueller steps before cameras, breaking his silence and taking us back to what started his 2-year investigation.
Russian intelligence officers who were part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system.
Mueller pushed back against President Trump's claims the Russia report cleared the president of any wrongdoing.
If we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Mueller's public statements stuck close to the report he released last month on whether the president obstructed justice by interfering with the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election.
We did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime.
The special counsel says he never had an option to charge the president.
A president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he is in office. That is unconstitutional.
President Trump reacted quickly, tweeting, quote, "Case closed."
There was no collusion, there was no conspiracy, and we consider this case closed. He completed his investigation. Now he's closed his office, and it's time for everybody to move on.
Special counsel makes clear that obstruction of justice, which he found substantial evidence of, is a serious crime that strikes at the core of our justice system. No one is above the law, and we will hold the president accountable.
Mueller closed by making clear Russia meddled in the election, favoring one candidate over the other.
And that allegation deserves the attention of every American.
And Mueller says the special counsel's office is now closed. He is leaving Congress and the American people to decide what happens next.
A surprise twist from a Detroit judge today. She delivered her sentence in a deadly hit and run.
As part of a plea deal, Brian Garner admitted he hit and killed Michael Kavanaugh on Jefferson back in August of 2018. But as our Coco McAboy shows us, there was one part of that plea deal the judge wouldn't agree to.
Brian Garner was facing just 1 year in prison for the hit and run death of Michael Kavanaugh, but the judge had other plans.
The people of the state of Michigan versus Brian Keith Garner Jr.
For Brian Garner, it's the day of his sentencing, but for Michael Kavanaugh's family, it's the chance to get some justice in his death.
If you or anyone would ask me what's the one word that I think of when I think of Michael Kavanaugh, it would be home.
Garner pled guilty to a hit-and-run crash on Jefferson that claimed the life of Kavanaugh, lovingly known as Socks. He turned himself in hours later.
It's noble in everything that you turned yourself in and that you accepted responsibility for what you've done, but the reality is you have to face the consequences.
His consequence was supposed to be just 1 year in prison with 5 years probation after he took a plea deal. But Kavanaugh's family did not think the deal was fair.
But I often question our justice system. I feel the justice system in this case is thinking more about you in your favor, yet you are not the victim.
Judge Kiana Lillard agreed.
It's just unprecedented in my experience on this bench, and I cannot in good conscience, looking at the facts and circumstances of this case, follow the sentence agreement that you all put in place.
The judge gave Garner an opportunity to speak in court. He didn't have much to say, just a few words for Kavanaugh's family.
I just apologize for what happened and hope the family forgive me.
Judge Lillard handed down her own sentence following the guidelines, and now Garner will serve 2 to 15 years in prison for the death of Michael Kavanaugh. I'm Coco McAboy, Local 4.
All right, Coco, and the family of Michael Kavanaugh spoke outside of court saying they are pleased with how the judge handled the case despite the short sentence.
Well, it seems like it's Mother Nature's way of just not figuring out what she wants to do, right? At least it's dry, though, right now for crews to put the finishing touches on Belle Isle ahead of the Grand Prix next weekend.
Yeah, pretty gloomy out there. Let's get over to Ben. Are we going to see the clouds clear out anytime soon, Ben?
Some of us have, guys, but this is looking back at Belle Isle from downtown. Yeah, it's still pretty murky out there. A lot of low clouds, pretty dreary afternoon, especially for folks on the east side. That's where the 60s are still hanging tough. Monroe's already at 72. Some of us are in the mid to upper 70s in the south zone where those clouds have started to part and we get some late sunshine. Rain does return Thursday. We'll talk about that. Friday looks like the best of the bunch, but as we approach Grand Prix weekend, not completely dry. We'll look at the timing of those rain chances in just a few minutes. Jason?
All right, Ben. Day one of the Mackinac Policy Conference, and the biggest topic is something right near the Grand Hotel. The Line 5 pipeline and the growing battle between its owner, Enbridge, and Governor Whitmer. Devin Skillian is on Mackinac tonight, where Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel says she's ready to put Enbridge on the clock.
Well, Kimberly and Jason, it is a beautiful day here at the Grand Hotel, one of those classic pure Michigan days along the Mackinac Straits. But it is what is lurking underneath these waters that as the Michigan Attorney General ready to take action against one of the most controversial pieces of infrastructure in the state.
My time in office has confirmed all of my deepest fears about the condition of that pipeline.
The Attorney General is giving Enbridge about a month to reach a deal with the governor, or she'll move to shut down the line that runs beneath the waters not too far from this conference.
I feel as though every day that that pipeline continues to operate is a day that our state is in great peril and in jeopardy of what potentially could be the biggest oil spill that our nation has ever seen.
Maybe it's the elegance of the Grand Hotel, maybe it's the horse-clop pace of life on the island, but this policy conference is generally a genial affair, even though the attendees can represent vastly differing viewpoints. And perhaps it's fitting that the lead up to the conference brought a bipartisan deal on no-fault insurance reform. A bipartisan deal on anything right now feels a bit like a unicorn sighting, especially after the breakdown over infrastructure talks in Washington. Two members of Congress, Democrat Debbie Dingell and Republican Fred Upton, are here on the island urging cooperation.
We're working together on each other's legislation. We're taking the best ideas from both sides, and we were actually successful in changing the rules of the House to really promote more bipartisanship.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. We don't have Republican or Democratic potholes. People are drinking water in cities that they want to make sure is safe.
But Robert Mueller's statement today will do nothing to quiet the drums in Congress.
We're not going to stop providing that oversight responsibility because the president is having a temper tantrum. But he is the one who's taking us to this place, and he has to be held responsible for that.
And of course, with abortion debates breaking out in a number of states, including Michigan, the task of civility could get to be an even tougher one as we head toward the elections of 2020. Coming up here at 6 o'clock tonight, Stacey Abrams, one of the marquee guests of this year's policy conference. My conversation with her coming up when we continue here from the Grand Hotel. Till then, Devin Skillian, Local 4 News. Kim and Jason, back to you.
All right, we'll look forward to that. All right, Devin. We're just getting warmed up on Wednesday. She's a very special dance instructor, helping children live out their dreams, but all of it came so close to never happening.
I was asking God to let me live. Please let me live.
New tonight, how these kids are helping this local mom recover from her own health problems.
And tragedy in Battle Creek. The sheriff says he's grieving for the family of an 11-year-old boy killed in a freak accident involving one of his own deputies.
New video just in tonight shows the moments right before a wild shooting here in Greektown that injured 3. And for the first time, we're hearing from witnesses who say exactly what happened in the moments leading up to it.
Okay, Mara, and if you're just joining us, the evacuation has just been lifted in downtown Lapeer after a gasoline spill sparked an explosion. Once again, the evacuation has been lifted, so we'll be right back with more.